Okay, so we just got back from doing a mud run and we got the machine all cleaned up and she looks pretty clean and good to go, right? Actually, it's not, and I'll show you why. So let's get right down in here on the inside of the wheels where the calipers are. Looks all nice and clean, huh? You power washed it all off, look good? It's not. So now we got the wheels off and you can see a little bit of mud on here. Does this matter? Well, it matters a lot because if you leave this like this and just go riding again, it's gonna cost you a lot of money. Look at the holes in the rotors. Those holes are there to dissipate heat, but a lot of those holes have mud plugs in them. Look at the mud on the rotor itself. There's gonna be mud on the brake pads, okay? If you start riding like this again, you're gonna wear your brakes out in no time. One of the biggest problems mudders have is the brakes they go through. Roughly for Segways, it's $75 per wheel for new pads. So if you want to keep changing them 2-3 times a year, that's fine. I'm going to show you what you can do to make them last a lot longer. I'm going to show you today how we do a service job to the brakes, and I'm also going to show you how to do a complete brake job and change your own brakes. So stay tuned. Okay, so at this point, we've got the front end jacked up. We got the wheel off with a 3/4 inch or 19 mil deep socket, and we've got a block behind the wheels so it doesn't roll away on us. And all we're going to do is we're going to take the pressure washer first of all and blast as much of this out of here as we can. Try to get those holes cleaned out as much as possible. Come to the top and shoot the water down through the brakes. Look at the mud coming out. Look at all that mud running out of there. See that? Look at the dirty water and mud. That's all in your brake. Give your boots a quick clean on your drive shaft. Okay, that's good enough with the pressure washer for the moment. We're still not done servicing the brakes though. Okay, for the next part of the brake job, you need to have a 12mm wrench. Okay, and you're simply going to put it on top of this one right here and just crack this free like that. Okay, so that bolt spins nice and easy. You're going to go around here. Do not touch this bolt. That's fluid. It's the bottom one. Down here, you can do the same thing, crack it free, and then I'm just going to spin those out and I'll come back. Okay, we have the retaining bolts out. So now we're going to pull the caliper off. You just take a hold of it. You can try and take it by hand, but odds are it's going to be a little stiff. So you may want to take like a screwdriver like this and just pry that away, and off she comes. That's it. And look at the mud that is still there. Even after pressure washer on this, that mud gets in all those brake pads, gets on the rotors. First time you put your foot on the brake, it's going to act as sandpaper and just destroy your brake pads very quick. So we're going to take a hold of this and take it out. That's one brake pad, and on the inside, here's the other brake pad. Okay, and we're going to take these to the kitchen sink. Okay, so we got our nice muddy brake pads in the kitchen sink. Turn on a little bit of water. And all we are going to use is water. We are not going to be using soap or any chemicals on these at all. We're just going to wash this mud right off. Just like that. Okay, so now we got our brake pads all nice and clean. Almost. You got a slot in here. This is your wear indicator. You want to take a slot screwdriver and clean that out. Don't want to leave the mud or dirt in there. Why? It's going to destroy your brakes. So just give it a quick clean with that and you're good. Okay, so now we have our brake pads properly cleaned. You can see that slot and it goes all the way down. When you can't see that slot anymore, it's time to change the pads. You're almost worn out. If you don't change the pads at that point, the backing plates of the brake are going to hit the rotor and destroy that rotor, and you're going to spend about an extra $300 a wheel. So you definitely want to make sure you do this once in a while, and so you know the condition of your brakes and don't destroy those rotors. Last thing we need to do for service and maintenance is give these rotors another blast. Okay, now they're good and clean, and if you're simply doing maintenance, they're ready to go back together. If you are going to have to put new brake pads on, then this is the next step for that. You're going to take your caliper, and you're going to see that there's mud up in there, and I got to get that mud out of there actually. Even for service and maintenance, you want this gone. Okay, bang that out. All right, now I have pretty new brake pads on here, so my pistons are not out very far. As my brake pads wear, these pistons come out farther and farther and farther. They need to be pushed back. And a lot of people just take your pliers and push the things back, and it's the worst mistake you can make. I'm just gonna take the pressure washer and clean these off quick. Okay, so what you need to do is, the new pads you're putting on are thicker. They won't fit unless you push these pistons back. And here's where everybody makes a big mistake. They just take their pliers and push them back. Well, guess what? There's crud all over this piston. Okay, you shove that back, there's an O-ring seal up in there. That dirt's gonna get in there. It's gonna contaminate your brake fluid. And more importantly, it's gonna cause these pistons over time to seize. If you do it, what I'm gonna show you, it'll never happen. Okay, so you're gonna take and you're gonna make sure this is clean. What do you use? Just warm water. Clean it off. It's just gonna be dirt, so you clean it off with warm water. You're only gonna be able to get to part of it. So you take your channel locks, gently turn it. Like that. Do this section. Clean it up. Gently turn it. Again, do both pistons until both are done that way. Then you take your trusty channel locks again, you open them up to about this size here, and you very carefully, oh, I opened them up too much. Close it up a little bit. And you very carefully put your thumb on this piston and gently push this back. Just like that. Okay, reverse your hands, hold this piston in, because otherwise it'll want to come out when you push the other one in, and you take your channel locks and you very carefully push this piston back. Now you're set for new brakes. It's very simple from here. Whether you're putting used pads back on or new pads, doesn't matter. We're going to take our pads here and we're going to just put them in this slot right down here, and in this slot here, right up against the rotor. And we're going to take this one on the inside and we're going to do exactly the same thing, so that you can see from the front the pads are sitting there like that. Okay, then we're going to take our caliper right here that we just pushed the pistons back on, and we're going to put it back over those pads. You're going to want to make sure this is nice and free. Right here, this is your slider. If this is not free, it's going to prematurely wear out your pads. And you've got one on the bottom as well. This is where the bolts were in. If, I'm not going to take these apart because there's nothing wrong with these, but if these don't move really free like this, you need to take these apart. There's going to be a slotted bolt there. You got to clean it all up and put easy slide grease on this and put it back together so that it goes like this. If it doesn't go like this, both of them, top and bottom, you will wear out your pads far sooner than you should. Okay, so now we're going to put the caliper back over just like that, and you got to make sure that this steel part here goes right up against this. If this isn't turned the right way, it won't do it. It has to be turned like that. Okay, so we're just going to take that, we're going to take our bolt, and we're going to put it in. Just feel around till it starts to turn and go in. Okay, and the same with the bottom. You must make sure that the steel part is right up against the caliper. We're going to take our bolt, turn it in by hand as far as you can. Okay, that's starting to seize tight there, so I can't turn it. Oh, a little bit more. There we go. All right, and then we take our wrench, we put it back on, we snug it. Same on the bottom, snug it. Not done yet. Put this on here, take your hand, give that a couple of good shots with your hand, just to lock that bolt. That's how you properly do a front brake job. We're still not done. This next part is critical. Far too many people have done this, then they go and they do the other side, they fire their machine up and go to move, they've got no brakes. Why? The piston is not being pushed back out against the brake pads yet because we pushed it all the way back in. So you have to come around over here, to your brake pedal, and you're gonna push down on this, and this is gonna feel real loose and sloppy. You just keep pumping it slowly, not fast, nice and slow until you get tension. Okay, now you have brakes again. If you don't do this and you fire your quad up or a car, same thing, and go to move, you got no brakes. You're gonna keep going and hit something. You must make sure you pump that brake until you get resistance again. And that is how you properly do a brake job on your quad, or just service them. You need to do this on a frequent basis. You want to make sure it's clean in there, or you're going to be wearing your pads out way prematurely and spending a lot of money that you don't need to spend, especially if you do mudding, because more mudding you do, the more mud's going to get between those pads and rotors. It's going to act like sandpaper and just destroy those brake pads in no time. And by the way, whether you're doing a quad or a car, which you legally can't do unless you have a license, but whether you're doing a quad or car, it's the same principle. Take your time, make sure everything's clean, thoroughly clean. If you're really concerned, you can take what's called brake parts cleaner and spray it onto a rag, and just take it onto your rotor right here with the rag and wipe the rotor down if you want. I'd suggest you maybe do that if you're putting new pads on. If you're simply replacing your pad or simply servicing your brakes and putting your existing pads back on, you don't need to do that. But that's how you do a brake job. That's one wheel done and 3 to go. Just saved yourself a lot of money.